What's up, YouTube? It's the Console Samurai reviewing Final Fantasy XIII-3 Lightning Returns. My copy's on Xbox 360. Now, it's a pretty good game, actually, so far. I haven't finished it yet, but what I've played so far is a good game. I'm a little bit less than halfway through, I think. Now, for those of you who don't know the story, and there will be spoilers for the first two games to follow, at the end of the first game, Lightning was basically wiped out of existence, everyone's memory. They've completed their mission, and she disappeared. And the reason why she disappeared was to bring her sister back from a permanent crystal slumber. In the second game, everyone has forgotten Lightning, except for Sarah, her sister. So she goes on a mission with this guy from the end of the world, the last surviving human, to save all of existence because Lightning actually is living in another dimension where she is trying to fight off this stuff called chaos, which is this dark energy. It's like the embodiment of, well, chaos. At the end of, they go traveling through time to try to fix the chaos and where it's impacting the world in different time zones, or not time zones, but time periods. The end of the game, and again, there are spoilers. At the end of the game, they successfully defeat the final enemy, who has tricked them. By killing him, they've unleashed chaos into the world, and as such, Sarah dies. Now cut forward to this game. Lightning has spent 500 years in a coma, essentially, a crystal slumber coma, until she's awakened by a god called Bunavelza, I think is how you pronounce that. And she has 13 days left. 13 days left to save the world, which you're never going to be able to save the world anyway. As of the 13th day, the god reawakens, and this is not a spoiler for the game. They do actually say that. The god reawakens, wipes everything out, and starts over. The point of the game is to go through and save as many lives as possible, or save as many souls, so that the new world will be populated with people. Now, it's actually kind of an interesting idea, because all of the mini-quests and side quests and, all the main quests, they save a person's life. And also, this is relevant because it helps you level up. Get back to that a little bit more in a little bit. The battle system. Let's move on to the battle system. Battle system is actually interesting. It's definitely a departure from the normal turn-based, because you have an ATB bar, active time battle, which was introduced back in, I believe it was Final Fantasy X. It's an interesting idea, and this time I actually feel like they really did. They implemented it much better than the first two of the Final Fantasy 13s, where you pick, I want to do this, and it uses up that much of your bar. This is interesting because when you put, like for instance, you want to use fire. Use fire, it takes off a little bit, but you can still pick and choose what works as you're actually putting in the commands, because they, like that, they go right through, just like that. Now, you don't have just one ATB bar. You actually have three, because you have three different sets of skills. They're called garbs, or schemata. Schemata, that was the word. Now you have up to three, and you can customize them with different looks, different weapons, different shields. Each one of these actually impacts your health, your damage, your physical damage, magic damage, how much of this ATB bar you have. So each one of these, they're kind of like a different. They're custom builds of the character, and you can have three active on your character. You only get one, Lightning. You have three active, up to three active at any time. So, and you can switch through them just by hitting the shoulder buttons, L1, R1. You just switch right between them, which is really good because as you're hitting the bottom of one, you can switch instantly to the other one, and you have a fresh ATB gauge. You can just burn through that one. While you're burning through that one, any that are inactive, if they're not charged, they're charging automatically. This is pretty cool. I like this. Each one of them, obviously, they look very different. Like I pre-ordered the game from GameStop. So I got some pretty cool looking ones. I got Clouds from Final Fantasy VII. I got his whole outfit, which is actually pretty good for dealing damage. So if you did pre-order from GameStop or you have access to that, I do recommend it. It is really good to start off a game. Really good, just really core physical damage. But, so you have these three, and each of them tweaks your stats just a little bit. But now on to the end of the battle. There are no experience points in this game, which definitely not what I'm used to. I'm used to, like you get 100 experience points for this, and that leads you to the next level. Going back to the side quest, main quest, and all that, each one of those you complete, it boosts your stats by a little bit. It may bump your magic up by 5, 10 points, whatever, or even 1 point, which really doesn't do much. Your hit points, occasionally you'll even get a new ability, or you'll get like an unlock of something, like you can carry more items now. So it's definitely it's a very different game, but I really like the way that it is done. The battle system, the battles are very fast. Not too fast, but they are definitely fast. And as far as I know, this is the first Final Fantasy game, other than 11 and 14, which are 100% online, that actually has any real online component. When you defeat certain enemies, you can post your scores. You can post your high score to the outer world, I believe they're calling it, which is essentially just the internet. All the other players in the game, they can see it. You can leave messages for other players. They appear on random NPCs with the actual player's name, because you set up a username for yourself, basically. So that's cool. You're walking through one of the main towns, and you're like, hey, there's one of the NPCs who obviously has a message. You pull it up, and you see someone else left a message there. So far, I don't really see much of a point. It's really just a novelty. And they can send you items. You can buy them from them if you're a little short on cash, or if they're a little short on cash. But so it's interesting, because the whole point of the game, when you start off, you've only got 5 days before the world is destroyed. Not before the god awakens, before this chaos, this dark energy, which has wiped out the majority of population, which is a huge problem, because people no longer can procreate. When the chaos got out, it eliminated aging. People still died of accidents, illness, things like that, but nobody aged. Nobody died of old age anymore. But as a trade-off, you can't have kids anymore. So the same people have been alive for 500 years. Some of them stuck as children for 500 years, which I'm sure that's a hell of a lot of fun. But there's no new kids. So each one of these people who dies, and there's a running count in some of the towns to show how many people have died today, which you can minimize that by killing off some of the random enemies that appear in town. So because this chaos is now running rampant and is going to wipe out everything, you have at the beginning of the game 5 days before the chaos takes over. You still have 13 days before God reawakens to bring everything back. If chaos destroys everything, obviously there's nothing for the god to bring back. So you have to save as many lives as possible, because each one of these lives you save, each soul you save, adds a little bit of time left to the day. Which is actually really cool, because it does actually give you, and there's a real time, well, sort of real time, it's much quicker, but there is an actual countdown to how long you have. It's running at the top. It really adds an element of, I've got to get this done. I'm running out of time, because when at 6 o'clock every morning you are transported back to your home base where time stops. But you've got to get everything done by 6 o'clock the next morning. You only have 13 days to get all this stuff done, which is really only, I haven't done the math, but 2 or 3 actual game days, I would say, actually playing the game. 72 hours of gameplay is probably about the maximum you have to get everything done. So there's a definite, I got to get this done. I got to go. I can't wander around and, explore, really. I will try to see everything as I'm going, but, it definitely keeps you on your toes. And also, another fun bonus, that the New Game Plus is back. For those of you who don't know what that is, when you complete the game, you get to start over from scratch. But you have, depending on the game, you have different things. In this game, you keep essentially everything. All the quests reset. all the quests reset, all the enemies reset, all some of the key items you can't actually keep because they're pertinent to the game progression. But the fact that you get to start over from the beginning of the game with your boosted stats, all your boosted schemata, like I was telling you about, because by the end of the game, I'm sure you've got some pretty decent ones. So, beginning of the game on New Game Plus, you should be able to blow through pretty quick. And there are 3 different difficulty levels. If you start out on normal or easy, depending on, how familiar you are with RPGs. If you start out with either easy or normal, once you've beaten the game on normal, you unlock hard mode, which the best items in the game are available only on hard mode. So you can get a lot of the really good games, but a lot of the really good items, but the really best ones, you have to play on hard. And I have looked at the stats on some of these monsters you have to fight. Hard mode is definitely named properly. But in the end, all these are just little things. My recommendation, if you liked either of the first 2 Final Fantasy 13 games, definitely pick this up, because this is quite possibly the best of all of them. I was not a huge fan of the gimmicky, and this is gimmicky too, but at least it's done right. But the battle systems in Final Fantasy 13 and 13-2 are both very gimmicky. The first one, it's kind of cool with the, being able to change your settings or your, I forget what it's, paradigm. You change your paradigm like that. That's fun, but it's not as cool because you have to have the right people. You have to have them set up the right way. This is really just everybody. You can custom build each one. All the abilities work on all of them. You just pick which ones you want. You can only have 4 abilities on each one. So there definitely is more of a planning thing. But in Final Fantasy 13-2, it looked like they were trying to make it like Pokemon. You had 2 main characters, and you tamed animals. You tamed monsters, and you would use them, and you'd upgrade them. And I never played a lot of Pokemon, but what I did play was pretty much exactly like that. So Final Fantasy 13, this whole series, has unfortunately kind of been geared toward Western gamers rather than being what it was originally for. They seem to have sold out a little bit, which is fine. It sells. I understand why you did that. But 13-3 is, in my opinion, definitely better than 13-2, and I actually like it. Now, is it a real Final Fantasy game like those of us who have been playing since Final Fantasy 1 on the NES or Famicom? Is it the same? Do you have the same feel? Not really. You don't really have this. You do have this drive toward, oh my God, there's this supernatural or godlike villain that I have to destroy. I have to fight him for the good of the world. It is a little disheartening to know that no matter what you do, the world is still going to get blown up. There's nothing you can do to stop that. Best thing you can do is hope to save as many people for the new world as possible, which is cool. But it is a little bit like, everything's going to end anyway, so why should I try? But, you look at games like Final Fantasy X, where you had Sin, and there was a huge twist at the end. Those of you who haven't played, I'm not going to say what it is. Each game has had a twist at the end, which I like. And I'm looking forward to the twist at the end of this one. But there was really, other than the last moment of 13-2, there was no twist. Not really. Other than he screwed you and destroyed, he unleashed the chaos anyway. 13, the twist didn't come until the sequel. The opening sequence of 13-2 was the twist from 13. Just you weren't rewarded with it until you actually played the second game. Which, speaking of which, there are better items you do get for having a save game for 13 and 13-2. When you boot up 13-3, you do get a schemata right off the bat, which for each game, which is pretty cool. They're decent. They're not great, but they're good if you're just starting off. So, long story short, which at 14 minutes and 42 seconds, I guess that ship has sailed. But anyway, if you like RPGs and you're looking for a good one to play, I recommend this one. It's fun. It's not the greatest one, but it's definitely fun. So, rent it, buy it, whatever. Give it a shot. Console Samurai. See you all right.